welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really digging into some sources about writing, specifically how to nail those crucial beginnings and endings, introductions, and conclusions.
That's right. And our goal here is pretty straightforward. Pull out the key takeaways from this material to help you make your own writing more engaging, more impactful.
So let's start where the reader starts.
hmm
The introduction, and specifically that very first impression, the hook. The sources are clear. This isn't just any first sentence.
No, definitely not. It's defined as the sentence really designed to grab the reader, make them stop and think, okay, I need to read this.
And why is that initial grab so important, according to these notes? It seems obvious, but what's the deeper reasoning?
Well, the sources stress a few things. It makes the whole intro feel more engaging right from the start. It shows a bit of creativity. It gives a strong first impression, obviously.
Hmm.
And maybe most importantly, it helps the reader actually connect with the topic immediately. It pulls them in.
Right, it's like an invitation they can't refuse. So what kinds of hooks does the material suggest? Are there specific techniques?
Yeah, the notes lay out four main types. First up is the anecdote. A short, relevant story.
Like a little narrative glimpse.
Exactly. The example given is about a kid getting upset over clothes. It's small, personal, but it opens the door to a bigger idea, like social pressures. It creates an emotional connection.
Okay, that makes sense. Human element first. What's next?
Then there's the question. This is pretty direct. It makes the reader start thinking, engages them actively from the get-go.
Puts them on the spot a bit.
In a good way. Like the example, what if you could get a top-tier education without leaving your couch? It sparks curiosity about, say, online learning. Makes you want the answer.
I see. Clever. And the others?
A quote. Using someone else's words, maybe someone respected or famous, can add instant credibility or emotional punch.
Ah, like borrowing authority.
Precisely. The sources mention using someone like Nelson Mandela talking about education. That immediately gives the topic weight.
Yeah, that's powerful. And the last one,
A surprising statistic or fact. Numbers can really jolt people. The material points to that stat about billions using social media. A number that big makes you pause and think, okay, this is significant.
wow, yeah, a big number like that definitely grabs attention.
Mm.
Okay, so you've hooked them. What do the sources say comes next? You can't just jump straight to the main point,
All
right?
right. After the hook comes background information. The notes call this the bridge, essentially.
A bridge.
Yeah, it provides context, defines terms if needed, maybe gives a little history. It smoothly leads the reader from that initial hook towards your main argument, your thesis. It sets the stage.
So it's like filling in the necessary details so the thesis statement doesn't feel like it just appeared out of thin air.
Exactly that. The material shows this flow. Hook first, then maybe some context like how teenagers use smartphones now before you introduce the actual problem or tension your thesis will tackle, like parental concerns about screen time. It creates a logical path.
Got it. Hook, then context, then thesis. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now let's jump to the other end, the conclusion, that final impression. The sources talk a lot about restating the thesis. What exactly does that mean here?
It's about revisiting your main point, but crucially, not just repeating it. The sources define it as saying your core argument again, but in different words than how you put it in the introduction.
And why is that so important? Why remind them? Didn't they just read the whole essay?
Well, yes, but it serves a key purpose. The sources say it reinforces the main message right at the end, reminds the reader what it was all fundamentally about.
Okay.
It also shows that all the points you made actually tie back to that central idea, demonstrating good organization. It gives that sense of closure.
Okay, so how do you actually do that effectively without sounding repetitive or just, copying and pasting?
The guidance is pretty practical. Use synonyms for your original key terms, change up the sentence structure. The core meaning has to stay the same, but the phrasing needs to be fresh.
Mhm.
There's a good example in the notes. If your intro thesis was something like, school uniforms reduce bullying, save money, and create unity, your restated thesis in the conclusion might be, therefore, requiring uniforms is beneficial as it helps prevent bullying, lowers costs for families, and builds a stronger sense of school identity. See? Same ideas, different words.
Yeah, that really clarifies it. Different shape, same substance. The sources also warn against some common mistakes in conclusions.
No, absolutely. Key things to avoid, according to the material. First, don't bring in totally new information or examples. The conclusion isn't the place for new reveals.
Right, wrap it up, don't open new doors.
Exactly. Second, definitely don't just copy the thesis word for word from the intro. And third, avoid ending too abruptly. You need that restated thesis, sure, but then usually a final concluding thought to leave the reader with something.
So it's a deliberate sequence. Restate the main point, then offer a final takeaway or reflection.
Precisely. And you see how it all fits together in the example structure they provide. The hook pulls them in, background sets the stage, body paragraphs build the case, the restated thesis reminds them, and that final sentence gives it resonance. Like that line, schools that adopt uniforms may be taking a small step, but one that makes a big difference.
Connects it back to the real world. Okay, so to quickly recap based on these sources,
Hmm.
a strong hook is vital for attention, background gives context, and the conclusion needs to effectively tie it all together, especially by restating that main idea in a fresh way.
That's the core of it, and applying these principles, really internalizing them from the material, can significantly boost how clearly and powerfully your writing lands with your reader.
So here's something for you to think about. Drawing from our deep dive today, we see how just refining the first and last sentences can change the whole feel of an essay. Maybe consider this. How could intentionally crafting the openings and closings of your other communications, emails, talks, even just conversations, change how effectively your ideas are received out there?